G'day guys and welcome back to the channel, and today we are going to be ranking AFL stadiums. Now, another tier maker, I've been on this a fair bit recently, but you know, it never really fails to disappoint. It's always a solid option for a bit of fun and, you know, fairly interesting at times. So anyway, without much blabbering on about anything, let's get straight into it. So first of all, these are so hard to see, by the way. I had to do a bit of research before, a lot of very good eyesight to see what half of these things were. So if I get any of these wrong, I won't be happy with myself, but just bear in mind that I can barely see any of these things. So first of all, we have Utas Stadium, which is Launceston, Hawthorn's sort of secondary home ground, and I'm not going to lie, it's not too bad. It's good for what it is, you know. It doesn't have to be that big. Obviously hosted a couple of finals last year, but it doesn't have the biggest crowd, it doesn't have the biggest capacity, but it's still reasonable. So for that, I reckon we'll chuck it in B. Obviously the atmosphere is not going to be incredible with such a low capacity. It's probably got about, 15,000 in it maybe. But, you know, it was good. It was handy last year with all the finals being played there and all that. Next up, we have now, this is an interesting one. I don't even think they've played here in a couple of years. This is Riverway Stadium in Townsville. I'll show you a photo of it up here. That's it, just there. It is actually, it might be small. I think Antler Frame there is a grandstand as well, but look at this. It's got the river in the background. I know it's called Riverway Stadium probably because of that, but that is really cool with nice little picturesque features. You know, the river in the background sort of adds a nice effect. Obviously, very small for an AFL ground though, so, and I mean, clearly there's not going to be much of an atmosphere, so for that I think we're going to have to put it in C, purely and simply just because of the crowd experience there. It's obviously it'll be good to watch because you're close to the ground and all that, but crowd won't really be getting into it too much. Next up, we've got the Adelaide Oval. This is good. This is really good because I will not lie, there's never really small crowds at the Adelaide Oval. So the atmosphere is always, you know, it's always packed in. The crowd's usually supporting just the one team because it's usually all sort of 95% Port fans or 95% Adelaide fans. So they're all really getting into it. Really good atmosphere. I have been here before. Didn't actually watch the footy though. I actually went to watch the cricket, which was, you know, I would have liked to go and see the footy one day. And hopefully I'll try to get there one day. But it is very good. It is really good. I'll chuck it in A. Obviously been redeveloped a couple of years ago. It's very good. Next up, we have Marvel Stadium. Now, I know a lot of people don't like this very much, but personally, I really love it. Really love it. Great atmosphere under the roof. It's never cold or wet as a supporter because obviously the roof's usually shut. Lots of good places to eat and drink there. So honestly, this has got to go in S. It's just a really good stadium, good location too, just in Docklands, you know, quite easy to get to by train. Very good. Got to give it an S. Next up, we have Metricon, home of the Suns. Never really, I'll say this, whenever teams seem to play at Metricon, it either absolutely pisses down with rain or it's just an absolute cracker of a day. And as you can see in this photo, not a cloud in the sky, it's just in a great location, the Gold Coast. And I know we're ranking the stadium itself, but the weather there is always good, which sort of amps it up a little bit. The stadium itself obviously never really gets massive crowds. Obviously, Gold Coast don't have the biggest fan base, but it's functional. Again, 2020, I think it was, the season that was all interrupted with COVID and all that. Played heaps of games here, and, you know, it was a solid ground. It was a solid option. For that, it does look cool as well with the roof design. So for that, you know, that's going in A. That's actually surprised me. The stadium, it's a very good one. I can hardly see the next one, but it's TIO Stadium in Darwin now. Obviously quite small, probably 10,000 capacity again, but it's good. They play here a couple of times a year. Obviously great to have footy up there, but you know, the stadium itself it's pretty much just like the one in Townsville, just a bit bigger. So for that, I'll chuck it in C, just above the Townsville one. But yeah, I'm happy with that decision. Now, next up, I think this is Cardinia Park, the home of the Cats. This is a good stadium again, being redeveloped at the moment, which makes it a bit strange, not going to lie, for watching it on the telly with no supporters up one end of the ground. It makes it interesting, but obviously when it's done, it should be really cool. It's a nice ground. It's quite big. Obviously, the Cats have been very good there recently, so the crowd, not really recently, they've been good there pretty much all the time. But yeah, the crowd always gets into it there. It's a great stadium. It's going in A, above Metricon. Got to give it that. Happy with that decision too. Righto, next up we have Giant Stadium in Sydney. Now, again, similar to Metricon, as in, not really many fans ever go to the games. As a Giants fan myself, I've still never been here. I've been to Sydney a couple of times, never been here. And honestly, there isn't really much reason to go here. Like, I know it's my team, but really, when there's usually more opposition supporters there than Giants supporters, the atmosphere's usually pretty crappy. But the stadium itself is good. The big scoreboard in the background, there's lots of sort of covered seating. It looks fairly nice, and for that, it's going to go in B, above Utas, I reckon. If it'll let me, there you go. Next up, we have Blundstone Arena, whatever you want to call it, or Riverway Oval, I think it's called as well, in Hobart. North Melbourne's sort of second home ground. It's, it's functional. Nice grandstands. The weather's always shocking there. It's always freezing. There's always a fair bit of wind. But, it's not too bad. It's kind of weird, though. There's a couple of buildings up the other end of the ground, which makes it kind of tough for Eddie Cheerscore to sort of park himself in there. But, it's decent. It's probably, it's both of the Tasmanian grounds are just pretty much the same. They just exist. They're functional for footy grounds. And for that, that's going to go in B. I reckon it's below Utas, because Utas actually, I don't know, just feels a little bit less. The weather just feels a bit better because it's not right on a river, I don't think. Next up, well, what do we have to say? The G. Straight away. Historical purposes, it's great for footy watching. Atmosphere is always electric. Always great games on there. You got to put it in S. Just that's actually, I know it's probably the best stadium there, but it's the least explaining I've got to do, for obvious reasons. Next up, we have ANZ Stadium, a core stadium, I think it's called now. They barely play here. The Giants played here in round 1 this year. It is quite a nice looking stadium, not gonna lie. It's cool. It was used for the Olympics, I think, a couple of years ago. And 80,000 seats or something, which obviously they won't fill for an AFL game, but they all sort of seem to be protected by the roof and all. That seems to be a great stadium. So for that, this is going in A, above, actually, just because it's bigger, I'm going to put it above Adelaide Oval. That's going to be controversial, I think, the two people that watch this video. Next up, I'm struggling. This is the Gabba. This one's the Gabba, 100%. So yeah, the Gabba. It's quite a good stadium. Obviously, it's good. You can always hear, as a cricket fan as well, during the summer, this has always got a really good atmosphere. Really, top atmosphere. You can always hear the crowd. The crowd seems to be the loudest at the Gabba for some reason. But, for footy season, it's, it is what it is. It's got the Brisbane coloured seats, which I reckon is pretty cool. And I reckon this will go... they played a grand final here a couple of years ago, and for that, I'm going to put it next to Metricon. It can be above Metricon, just because it's a bit bigger. Next up now, I have no idea what I'm looking at here. This could be tough, hang on. What the bloody hell is that? Hang on. We've got a bit of tension here. I've got no idea what I'm looking at. I could be stupid. Honestly, this is a great mystery. I have no idea what I'm looking at, and I feel like this is just a massive brain fade. It's going to be something pretty obvious, but at this point in time, I have absolutely zero idea what I am looking at. Well, you know, I'm coming back to this. I'm going to see how stupid I really am. And if I can think of it later on, then I probably, you know, I'll get it back in the video. So, next up, we have, this is Kazeli Stadium in Cairns. Now, not a bad stadium, I'm not going to lie, great spot, nice warm weather. But obviously it's quite small, never going to really attract much of a crowd, which is, you know, a bit disappointing because it's quite nice. But, you know, a bit small for an AFL ground. I'm going to put it below TIO, but above the other one because, you know, got a nice looking grandstand, got some sort of seats around the outside. So, you know, get points for that. Now this next one, this is, I'm pretty sure this is the one in China that they played a couple of games at now. Clearly this wasn't purpose built for footy, and you can tell because it looks more like a castle than it does anything else. And honestly, it served its purpose. So they played like 2 games there. It wasn't overly special. It looked more like it had definitely played other things there rather than footy. It looked quite old, but you know, it was good to host footy there. So for that's going to go. Well, I mean, it had a reasonable capacity to it, didn't it? So I'm sorry to those who love the Riverway Stadium in Townsville, but it's just going to go above that. Next up, we got the SCG. Now, another solid ground. I will not lie. Iconic moments have happened here. I think Tony Lockett and Buddy Franklin both kicked their 1,000th goals. Oh no, Tony Lockett broke the record here. Buddy Franklin kicked his 1,000th, obviously, earlier in the year. And it's a good ground, you know. Nice cut. I love blue. I think I mentioned this in the footy jumpers video, but it's nice having the blue seats there. Some large scoreboards there. You know what? It's a very good ground. This is going to go just above the Gabba, I'll say, in the A tier. Good choice. Now, I've just realised this is some incredible Melbourne bias here, but the MCG and Marvel have just been 2 great stadiums. Next up, we have Traeger Park. This is the Atlas Springs ground they played at a couple of weeks ago. I think Melbourne played Port here just before, and you know it's decent. It is what it is. I think it's probably the smallest out of all of them. You know, I don't even think there's a grandstand here, which is a bit interesting. And to be honest, it's nice though with the sort of cliffs in the background, which is kind of cool. So for that, it's gonna go. Oh, what's better, the river or the cliff? I'm gonna say the river. I'll give it to him. Next up, we have Optus Stadium. Now, I cannot fault this ground. I cannot fault it at all. New stadium, built in, 2018, I think it was sort of opened. And it's brilliant, 60,000 seats. Grand final there last year. And what more could you say? Honestly, it is unreal. Unbelievable stadium. This is going in A. Oh, sorry, no, it's not going in A. I'll ruin that completely. It's going in S. And I think it's above Marvel, just because more seats. There's always a large crowd there because obviously Freo are doing quite well this year, and the Perth fans just seem to love their footy, so that's going in S. Next up, we have Manuka Oval in Canberra. Now, I've been here before. It's good. It is a good stadium. I will not lie. Although it's pretty small, they don't get much of a crowd in attendance. You know, it's functional. It functions well. And for that, I'm going to put it above Utas, I reckon. Decent atmosphere there, honestly. Now, this is the tough part. I have to figure out what the bloody hell this stadium is here. And I feel like I am just stupid. What am I looking at is the question. And I swear, if I think it's one of the stadiums that... this is blunt. What the... I swear, nah. Oh my god, you know what I have done? Okay, so the one that I rated as Blundstone, I am very stupid. So, what we're going to do is put Blundstone where I thought Blundstone was probably going to be, which is in B, below there. Now, for those of you who don't know, like myself until about 10 seconds ago, this is Mars Stadium in Ballarat. Now, obviously Ballarat, I've driven past here quite a bit. It's a nice ground. It is what it's always so windy here, by the way. And you know what, this can have a be. They play enough footy here for it to sort of, you know, gain a bit of a good reputation, and it's all right. It's pretty good. Good to watch the footy. Again, there's a few concrete steps, you know, people sit on there, obviously, but yeah, it's pretty good. Well, look at this. This is our list. So I'm actually pretty happy with what we have created here. Obviously, there's the main stadiums first, the stadiums which have sort of, I guess, like it's the team's main home ground, and it houses sort of multiple teams. ANZ or a core stadium up here is a bit of a surprise, but I like it. It's really got a good look to it from this angle as well. Adelaide Oval, which has got a great atmosphere. GMHBA, which has got a good atmosphere. SCG, obviously very historic. Had lots of iconic moments here. The Gabba, and again, they played the grand final here 2 years ago. Great ground, great atmosphere. Metricon, it looks nice. It looks very nice. Not the greatest of atmospheres, but it looks awesome. Giant Stadium, again, pretty poor atmosphere. Looks reasonable. It's just there for a fairly small footy club. It serves its purpose. Monica, again, same sort of, I guess, role as Giant Stadium, actually. Sorry, we're going new terms here. And, you know, in the capital, it's in Canberra. It's a good sort of location. It's a good vibe. Nice ground. Yeah, what more can you say? Next up, Utas. Again, serves its purpose. And he plays a couple of games here. He played some finals there a couple of years ago. It is. You know, it's all right. Blundstone, again, weather, a bit of an issue. Usually pretty cold and windy here, which sort of draws away the crowd. They've had a couple of low crowds there this year. Mars Stadium in Ballarat, again, fairly small, but it's been upgraded a little bit recently, as you can see with the new grandstand there. It's, you know, again, it's reasonable. It is what it is. Always very windy there, though. TIO Stadium in Darwin, again, I can pretty much say the same thing for all these, but I won't. No, put in a bit more effort. Always very hot in Darwin as well, so it's a bit more interesting watching the footy at TIO than other stadiums, because obviously the players will tire quicker. Kazeli Stadium, obviously they probably play probably one game a year up here, and again, it's always obviously not a prime time game, there's usually not two, like evenly poised teams. You know, it's usually just a fairly, you know, bit of a dead game, but you know, it serves its purpose again. The one in China hasn't been used for a couple of years. Looks more like a castle. What more can I say? Riverway in Townsville, quite small, not much of an atmosphere, but looks nice though. Same with Traeger Park, small atmosphere, not very good view. And yeah, well, thank you guys for watching this. It's been a lot of fun making this list, and I reckon I'm pretty happy with my decisions at the end of the day. And well, yeah, I'll see you in the next one.